10 Sinister Appalachian Cemeteries Exposed, Discover the Spine-Chilling, Haunted Secrets Within. The moon hung low, a ghostly specter illuminating the jagged trees of the Appalachian woods. Clara, a schoolteacher in her quaint town, often looked out her back window at the foreboding line of ancient trunks cloaked in fog. It was there that shadows twisted with secrets that rattled her at night, whispers of people lost, unmarked graves hiding the truth. When she first heard the stories of restless spirits and cursed cemeteries from local campfire tales, she thought them mere folklore. But one evening, curiosity pushed her across the threshold of familiarity into chilling uncertainty. With Lucy's campfire giggles still echoing in her ears, Clara ventured into the darkening woods, her heart thumping like a war drum. Goosebumps cascaded down her arms as she crossed into that fog-laden abyss. "Mom, can we see the ghosts?" Lucy's innocent thrill contrasted with Clara's rising dread. How could her daughter crave what terrified her? Questions swirled, dark and unyielding. The first cemetery emerged like a nightmare, a crumbling headstone peeking from under an invading mass of weeds. Clara's breath hitched, the air thickened. She traced her fingers over the etched names, figures long cherished, their lives stained by mystery and disappearance. Was this the fate of the cheerful neighbors at the PTA meeting? The grave markers whispered secrets, and with them came the weight of something terrible. The stories of the cattle farmer who vanished by the twisted oak, tales that kept townsfolk in shadows, now flooded her thoughts. From the warmth of communal gatherings to this chilling reality, how had she been blind? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, pushing onward. Clara unearthed more graves, some adorned with faded photographs, others merely whispers of lost lives. Each step ignited the fear that had nestled in her gut like a snake coiling tighter. How much longer could she unravel before those chilling truths swallowed her whole? And the thought of Lucy joining her, exploring at her side like an innocent shadow, unspooled Clara's heart. What had she exposed her darling child to? Then it happened. Under the gnarled branches of the centuries-old oak, Lucy ran ahead, fueled by eagerness. "Mom, look at this." The little girl darted from sight. Panic erupted in Clara's chest like a hammer striking metal. "Lucy!" She screamed, but only silence greeted her, sinking like a stone into the encroaching darkness. Shadows flickered, darting within her peripheral vision as she scoured the underbrush, frantic. The tales she dismissed as stories echoed in her mind now. Had they been warnings? The woods grew thicker, pricking at Clara's resolve. The distant giggle of her daughter rang out, innocent yet laced with something sinister. As Clara took a trembling step forward, heart racing, she realized this journey into the abyss might cost her everything. What haunted the woods? What nightmares awaited, lurking in the depths of the Appalachian shadows? With every beat of her heart, the question loomed larger: would she find her daughter, or something far more sinister? "Lucy!" Clara's voice trembled, echoing through the oppressive darkness. Panic clawed at her throat, tightening like a noose. She stumbled deeper into the graveyard, clutching the cold air as if it could shield her from the weight of dread that hung like a thick fog. The immense oak loomed ahead, its gnarled branches appearing like twisted fingers pointing towards the void. Clara rushed toward the shadows beneath it, the faint sound of laughter taunting her. Each step felt like wading through tar. Memories flooded her mind: the PTA meetings, the warm glow of summer picnics, neighborly smiles masking secrets, now barbed with fear. "Lucy!" She called again, her heart echoing with desperation. She could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon her, a sensation that prickled at the back of her neck. They were watching, waiting. Just then, amidst rustling leaves, the laughter shifted. It changed from innocent glee to something guttural, low, and mocking. Clara's stomach twisted as a chill enveloped her. "What is happening?" she whispered to herself, barely able to comprehend the transformation of her child's joy into a sinister melody. Eyes wide, Clara glanced around, the dim haze revealing more headstones, their names obscured by years of neglect and overgrowth. It was then she saw it, a fleeting shadow darting among the graves. A heartbeat pounded in her ears, fast and frantic. She fleetingly considered whether this was just fatigue playing tricks on her mind. But deep down, she knew. This was a presence, not a figment lingering in her imagination, but something far more sinister. Lucy. Panic overtook her reason. Every beat of her heart urged her to flee, but a thread of maternal instinct bound her to the ground, compelling her to search. She turned back to the oak, shadows twisting around it like snakes. No time for hesitation, she had to push through the thick fog of uncertainty to find her daughter. As Clara neared the trunk, a painful snap echoed, snapping her focus. She froze. "Did you hear that?" The branches above creaked ominously, swaying, though the breeze felt hushed. It was as if the woods themselves held their breath. Then she heard it. It wasn't Lucy's giggle. It was a whispering hiss, a chorus of voices merging into an unsettling symphony. Join us, the words coiled in the air, slithering into her mind. She instinctively stumbled back, dread freezing her limbs. "No, not you," she muttered, horror gripping her soul. With panic thrumming in her blood, she turned, sprinting back in the direction she had come from. But the path felt distorted, the trees closing in, warping into grotesque figures that seemed to block her way. She was trapped in their embrace, darkness swirling around her like a tempest. "Mom!" Lucy's voice broke through the chaos, echoing from somewhere deeper within the woods. "Mom, where are you?" It sounded real, yet tainted with a chilling undertone, reminiscent of the whispers. Clara's heart ached as she fought against the grasp of fear, knowing that she could not fail her child. "Lucy! I'm coming!" she cried, her voice raw as she pushed through the nightmarish shadows, driven by desperation. But as she drew closer, the laughter erupted again, mingling with haunting murmurs that filled the air with unspeakable dread. Clara's breath quickened, tears forming in her eyes as she realized, the woods wanted something from her. Something dark and twisted. Suddenly, she spotted her daughter. Small and alone, standing before a stone that glistened with an unnatural luster. The light flickered. Clara's heart skipped. "Lucy! Don't move!" But it was too late. The air thickened, and black tendrils began to creep from the ground, curling around Lucy's feet. Clara felt a force pulling at her to stop, to surrender to the dread, but she fought against it. "Lucy!" she screamed, her voice cracking. "Run!" But as her daughter turned, the look in her eyes was vacant, as if something had taken root inside her, transforming the innocent girl into an empty shell. Clara's blood ran cold, realization striking her like a hammer. Whatever darkness had reclaimed this place had now taken hold of Lucy. What sinister force had awakened in those haunted woods? What price would Clara have to pay to save her child, and would she still recognize her daughter when the shadows were lifted? The panic clawed at her heart as the creeping darkness whispered promises only a mother could hear. Clara's heart raced as she lunged forward, her feet pounding against the damp earth, desperate to reach her daughter. "Lucy!" she screamed again, but the sound was swallowed by the oppressive darkness. The air felt thick, heavy with dread, as she fought against the creeping shadows wrapping around her, attempting to pull her back into their abyss. The tendrils coiling around Lucy had a life of their own, snaking up her shins, glimmering with an otherworldly sheen. Now, the laughter that had once echoed playfully was twisted into a keening wail, echoing Clara's worst fears. "Run, Lucy! Please!" Clara's voice cracked, almost lost in the cacophony of whispers curling through the air. Each word sounded like an invocation, tearing at the veil between her and whatever malevolent force had invaded the cemetery. Lucy stood still, her tiny body locked in place, eyes wide but unfocused, as if caught in a trance. A pit formed in Clara's stomach. The darkness was reaching for her daughter, and time was slipping through her fingers like grains of sand. As she rushed toward Lucy, the world around her changed. The trees twisted and bent, their trunks warping as if they were alive, groaning in agony. The shadows beneath the oak morphed into fluttering shapes, creeping silently toward her, leaving Clara feeling dizzy and unmoored. She wanted to scream, to cry, to claw her way through the veil of darkness to reclaim her child, but then she stumbled upon an overgrown grave, its headstone half buried and covered in moss. Clara's heart sank when she read the name etched there, Lucy Thornton. A sensation of icy fingers danced up her spine. How could this be? With every breath, she felt the ground shake beneath her, and the whispers grew louder, insistent, drawing her attention away from the very real danger gripping her daughter. "Come join us," they beckoned, slipping inside her thoughts, taunting her with the promise of reunion. The concept of loss began to blur with the maddening desire to protect. "Stop!" Clara shouted, shaking her head violently to clear it. "Get away from my daughter!" Panic surged again, igniting her desperation. She had to act. Clenching her fists, she made a decision. She would not let them take Lucy. Clara tore her eyes from the headstone and sprinted forward, one arm reaching for her daughter while the other swatted away the grasping shadows. The moment her fingers grazed Lucy's arm, an electric shock coursed through her. Clara snarled at the darkness, shaking her daughter back to reality. "Lucy! I need you to fight!" Lucy blinked, struggling against the fog that clouded her mind. Slowly, she began to lift her foot, trying to free herself from the grasping tendrils. Suddenly, the laughter erupted once more, now wicked and chilling. The shadows recoiled as if struck, only to lunge back with greater ferocity, their whispers shifting to thunderous roars. "You cannot leave!" Clara felt a sharp pull to the ground. The shadows encroached, vibrant with dark energy. Lucy was still caught in their grasp, and time was slipping away. Clara's eyes darted around, seeking an escape. "Hold on to me." With a strength that surprised her, Clara yanked Lucy away from the grave's hold, but the darkness shrieked in fury, reeling back with malicious intent. Clara stumbled, dragging her daughter as they raced into the night, blind terror guiding them through the labyrinth of the graveyard, but as they reached the boundary of the trees, a blinding light erupted from the center of the cemetery. Clara paused, fear tightening her chest. What had they awakened? "Mom!" Lucy's voice trembled, pulling Clara back to reality. "What is that?" Clara looked back into the heart of the graveyard, where shadows writhed in madness, and the pulsing light flickered in the darkness. A figure emerged, daunting in presence, breathing despair. Its eyes glowed with a hunger, and Clara knew, deep in her bones, they were not out of danger yet. What did the figure want? How much more was Clara willing to sacrifice to save her daughter from the darkness that now threatened to consume them? Both? Clara felt her breath hitch in her throat. The figure stood there, impossibly tall, a silhouette against that merciless glow. It was neither man nor beast, but something else entirely, something lost between worlds, as if it were crafted from nightmares. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but her legs felt shackled to the earth. "Lucy, stay close!" She managed to shout, pulling her daughter to her side as they crawled backward, inching away from the pulsating light. But with each step, the earth beneath Clara's feet vibrated with a low hum, as if the graves were awakening from their slumber. It felt like the ground was breathing, contracting and expanding, ready to swallow them whole. The figure moved closer, threading through the shadows that clung to the trees like an old memory. Clara could feel the weight of its gaze, a penetrating stare that seemed to weigh down on her very soul. Lucy clutched her mother's hand tight, the little girl's fear palpable, infectious. "Mom, what is it?" Lucy whimpered, eyes darting around the dim venue of graves. Clara wanted desperately to reassure her, to erase that fear, but she couldn't find the words. Was this a ghost? No, it felt more sinister, more alive in its malevolence. The darkness coiled tighter, responding to the figure, a wave of shadow cascading over them. "You cannot protect her," the figure's voice echoed, a low rumble scraping against her mind like nails on a chalkboard. "She belongs to us, to the forgotten." Clara shook her head violently, desperate to shield Lucy from the truth in those words. "No!" she screamed, her voice raw with emotion. "She's not yours. You can't have her." The shadows pulsed, drawing closer. They were not just shadows anymore, they twisted into faces, gnarled and wretched, whispering Clara's name. "Clara, you will join us." It is inevitable, each syllable pressed against her, suffocating. Clara felt faint, the shadows tugging at her willpower, seducing her with promises of peace and sorrow forgotten. Images of herself lying in a dark grave flashed before her eyes, the shadows curling around her as if welcoming her home. Panic surged anew. "Fight it, Lucy. We have to fight." Lucy trembled beside her. "I don't want to." The figure loomed closer now, its face obscured in darkness. Clara's heart raced. If she couldn't save Lucy, she wouldn't let them take her. With a surge of fierce protection, Clara screamed, grounding herself. "We will be together. Nothing can tear us apart." As if in response to her defiance, the figure lunged forward, shadowy fingers reaching for Lucy. Clara's heart dropped, and with a primal roar, she pushed Lucy aside and threw herself toward the figure. A chilling cry erupted from the entity, echoing through the cemetery, sending birds scattering from trees in a cacophony of flapping wings. Clara felt the impact as the shadows enveloped her. A chill crept through her bones, but she fought back, clawing against the icy grasp. But the shadows only tightened their hold, dragging Clara downward, a dark whirlpool pulling her into the very depths of despair. She heard Lucy's cries, rippling through the darkness. "Mom! Mom!" Then, everything went quiet. The shadows stilled, and a hush fell over the graveyard, thick and heavy. Clara's world became black, but just before she slipped away, a soft glow flickered beyond the darkness. Could that light be her escape? Or was she plunging deeper into the abyss? A breath of hope entered her mind, igniting a fight that had not yet extinguished. "Lucy!" She cried out, but her voice echoed back hollow, lost among the graves, lost in the night. The shadows shifted, and Clara felt the darkness trying to crush her spirit. Was this truly the end? Or could love break through the confines of despair? And then she saw it, the glimmer of Lucy's white dress through the dark, reflecting a promise of salvation. But would Clara reach her in time, or would the shadows keep her forever apart from her daughter? Clara felt the pressure of silence close in around her, thick like molasses. That soft glimmer pulsed ahead, flickering into the depths of her grip on reality. She strained, reaching out, feeling the weight of the darkness begin to squirm around her, searching for any last tether to pull her under. "Lucy!" The name rushed from her lips. She focused on the shimmer, that radiant beacon in the choking dark. Panic clawed at her throat as she imagined her daughter lost, swallowed whole by the abyss. Then there was a rustle, a crack, as shadows writhed impatiently, longing to capture her spirit and drag her deeper. Just as she thought her grip would break, she felt Lucy's warm hand brush against her own. "Mom!" The little girl's tiny voice broke through, fragile yet fierce. Clara's heart swelled with renewed determination. The glow pulsed again, closer now, and Lucy appeared before her, a beacon of innocence against the twilight creeping across the graveyard. "Hold on to me," Clara managed, her voice a frantic whisper. She took a deep breath, fighting against the shudders coursing through her. She would not let this darkness win. With one last surge of strength, she tugged Lucy close, anchoring her against the rising tide of shadows. As Clara pulled her daughter in, tendrils of shadow lashed out, missing them by mere inches. "You think you can escape?" The figure hissed, the cold rasp of its voice sending shivers down Clara's spine, she belongs with us. Clara tightened her grip, her fingers nearly white with the effort. Not today. She turned, ready to face what horror awaited them. The shadows screeched, a chorus of anguish erupting from their twisted forms, but Clara pressed forward, determined to break the spell that had wrapped around their world like a noose. They trudged through the graveyard, every step a battle as the ground pulsed beneath them, as if sending tremors of warning through the soil. The shadows lurked and reached, seeking a moment of weakness. Clara moved instinctively, shielding Lucy as best as she could, desperation fueling her every step. They neared an old oak, skeletal branches stretching toward the sky, like fingers grasping for salvation. The glow flickered once more, brighter now, dancing just beyond the twisted roots. If they could just make it there, it felt impossibly far. "Mom, I'm so scared," Lucy cried, her voice quaking. The night seemed intent on consuming them, and Clara's heart twisted with the weight of her daughter's fear. She knelt down, matching Lucy's gaze, her breath steadying. "Look at me, Lucy," she urged, forcing her voice to remain calm. "No matter what happens, I need you to trust me. We will get out of this. Just keep moving." "But the shadows," Lucy whimpered, pointing toward the figures gathering in earnest, swirling like a tempest, their screeches rising in pitch to a maddening crescendo. Clara surged forward, grabbing Lucy's hand again, the little girl's small fingers weaving into her own. "Close your eyes and think of the sun. Picture it shining bright above us." Every muscle in Clara's body screamed as they sprinted toward the light, the shadows clawing at their ankles, trying to drag them down into eternal night. Only a few more steps, but then, a dark hand shot forth, snaring Clara's ankle. She stumbled, the world spinning, but she held fast to Lucy. "Run!" she shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Then there was a blinding flash, and the darkness screamed in betrayal. Was it working? Clara felt the pull of the shadows loosening, just as the glow enveloped them both, warm and welcoming. But just as they reached the edge of the light, she heard it again. The figure's voice crashed over them like thunder. "You can't escape. The forgotten will always find you." What choice remained? The shadows scattered at the edges, seemingly regrouping, the echoes of their whispers swirling like a cyclone. Clara squeezed Lucy's hand even tighter, feeling the warmth radiate between them, a last-ditch effort against the encroaching dread. In that moment, a chilling thought struck Clara, harder than any. Shadow had grasped her. What if they attached themselves to us? She gasped. As the glow faded, the darkness surged forward, ready to settle in for the long haul. They had to act now, or would they become just another whisper lost amidst the graves? With a deep breath, Clara looked to the flickering light ahead, determination burning in her chest. "We won't let them take us," she vowed, her voice resolute. But as they stepped forward, shadows began to swirl around them once more, murmuring promises of despair, as haunting faces emerged from the depths. Clara's heart sank. What if this time, they were too late? The air thickened with despair, wrapping around her like a noose, blotting out the hope. But still, she and Lucy pressed on, their faces set into a mask of determination, refusing to yield. Then, there it was, the horizon, a chasm of luminescence beckoning. The final leap. Could it be their salvation? Or would they plunge deeper into the waiting darkness? Clara felt the fabric of reality shift, the light flickering like a dying flame. With each hurried step, the shadows lunged at them, desiring nothing more than to return Lucy to their twisted grasp. That longing for her daughter welled like a hot flame inside Clara, pushing her onward, igniting strength she hadn't known she possessed. "Mom, it's too dark," Lucy whimpered, her breath coming in quick gasps. The innocence of her face stark against the gathering shadows created a haunting tableau, a picture that rose into Clara's mind unbidden. Warm summer days, laughter echoing in the sunlight, all tossed into an abyss now. "Hold on," Clara urged, tugging Lucy closer as they navigated the closing maw of darkness. Every instinct screamed at her to run faster. The air grew colder, dampening their hope, wrapping tight around them like a funeral shroud. from the corners of her vision, Clara glimpsed silhouettes solidifying as they materialized from the night, a collection of grim figures bearing twisted smiles and hollow eyes. "She belongs in the dark," one shrieked, a voice steeped in malice. "Come, child. Join us." "No!" Clara shouted, panic rising. She tightened her grip, desperation coursing through her veins like ice. Each figure clawed at her edges, gnashing teeth and elongated fingers attempting to breach their fragile sanctuary. The shadows reverberated with their suffering, a cacophony of mournful wails, each cry looser than the last, as if the cemetery itself wept for their lost souls. "Mom!" Lucy gasped, her small voice like a whisper against a storm. Clara's heart lurched, the shadows' pressure pushing them back, pulling at the threads of her resolve. Yet, even amidst terror, a flicker ignited within her, strength born from love. "Remember the sun," Clara encouraged, though her own heart trembled. "Picture it. Feel it." She urged Lucy to close her eyes. "We're almost there." As they plummeted into the chasm of light, Clara felt their connection waver. The shadows hissed in outrage, their anguished cries intensifying. With every heartbeat, a new wave of darkness crashed upon them, a surge of despair swirling, eager to envelop them whole. "We're not losing each other, Lucy," Clara yelled defiantly, even as the shadows seemed to coalesce closer. She had to make one last push towards rescue, but the path was treacherous, the figures solidifying into grotesque forms, faces she once recognized, images enveloped in sadness, darkness bleeding into every corner of her memory. "Come to us," they beckoned, voices wrapping around her. "Go away," Clara screamed, eyes fluttering as fear bloomed, a weighty panic almost choking her. She feared the shadows knew too much about their reality. She felt a rush of bile, headaches from the cacophony of their pleas, the memories threatening to consume her. It became a blur. There was no time for second thoughts as they stumbled forward, the light pulsing ahead like a frantic heartbeat, rhythmically calling them toward the promise of escape. But the ground rumbled beneath them, and Clara caught a glimpse of movement, shadowy hands clawing at the earth, twisting back toward her and Lucy. "Mom!" Lucy shrieked, her voice piercing through the chaos, panic threading desperately through every syllable. I can't hold on." Clara's heart dropped into her stomach. "Close your eyes," she commanded, gritting her teeth. "Just hold on to me. Trust me." The shadows seemed to halt for a moment, almost as if they were savoring her agony, their mocking laughter echoing against the gravestones. But Clara refused to bow, defiance rising like a tide crashing through her fear. Footsteps echoed louder, pounding like a drum as faceless figures gathered in anticipation. Clara's breath quickened. They had to leap now, one last risk. "On three!" Clara shouted fiercely, stealing another glance at the light. It was so close, shimmering with hope and safety. 1, 2, but then, the ground beneath them erupted, as if the very cemetery wished to reclaim its own. The roots of the oak tree twisted and curled, grasping at Clara's feet, pulling her down as desperation clawed at her mind. 3. They leapt together, fingers entwined. What lay beyond that luminous threshold? Hope or destruction? Would they find salvation or be lost forever in the darkened whispers, joining the chorus of the damned? As they leapt, cold hands lunged forward, reaching for their ankles with frigid tendrils. Clara's scream blended with the oppressive darkness, a chilling war cry swallowed by the void, and just like that, everything went silent. Had they escaped, or were they caught in a deeper snare, poised to face horrors beyond imagination? Clara awakened, gasping for air, her heart racing as if it might break free from her chest. They were no longer amidst the shadows. The air felt thick and heavy like a curtain drawn across a dark room, but she sensed a change. Lucy was still clutching her hand, tears streaming down her cheeks in the dim light. "Mom, where are we?" Lucy whispered, her voice cracking, fear lacing every syllable. Clara took a moment to survey their surroundings. They stood on a narrow path lined by gnarled trees, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers reaching for the cloud-streaked sky. The moon shone down, but it felt cold and unwelcoming, casting pale shadows that danced and flickered like the remnants of some long-forgotten nightmare. "I don't know," Clara murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. She knelt, brushing her fingers against the rough ground, half expecting the shadows to spring back to life, but there was only silence. "We need to keep moving." Lucy nodded, her trust resting entirely on her mother. Together, they stepped cautiously down the path, moving as quietly as the air itself. Clara's heart sank with each echoing crunch of leaves beneath their feet, reminding her that they were far from alone. As they crept forward, the woods began to stir. Clara's skin prickled, the overwhelming sensation of being watched enveloping her. Shadows lengthened, morphing into distorted shapes that clawed at her memories. She couldn't shake the feeling that something lurked just out of sight, hungry and waiting for the right moment to strike. Then came the voice, soft, almost melodic, laced with an undertone of sorrow. "You can't leave me, Clara. We were meant to be together forever." Clara froze at the sound, her breath hitching in her throat. "Lucy, stay close," she ordered, clenching her jaw. She fought the instinct to respond, recognizing that the voice didn't belong to anyone she'd known. "Mom, who is that?" Lucy's eyes widened, darting from the dark at their sides to Clara's face. "I don't know, sweetheart. Just keep walking." Clara tugged Lucy forward, fighting the dread that pooled in her stomach. They quickened their pace, each step echoing with urgency, heartbeats rising like a drumbeat heralding an impending disaster, but the voice persisted, weaving through the trees, wrapping itself around her mind. "We can be a family again, just let Lucy come to me. She belongs here." "No!" Clara screamed, forcing her feet to move even faster. "You don't know what you're saying." The darkness seemed to swell, pulling back only to strike again. Suddenly, the path opened into a clearing. Clara blinked in disbelief. Before them loomed a massive, decaying mansion, swallowed by vines and shadows. Its windows resembled hollow eyes, dark and uninviting. The haunting voice grew louder, more inviting. "Come inside, Clara, will be safe together." "Mom, I don't want to go there," Lucy cried, fear crossing her small features as she clutched Clara's hand tighter. The voice coiled around Clara's heart like a serpent, sending a shiver of allure and terror down her spine. "It's where you belong, no!" Clara shouted. She stepped back, feeling the pull of the shadows around them, their whispers rising to a frantic crescendo. "We're leaving. We're not going to lose each other." As they turned to flee, Clara noticed shadows at the mansion's threshold. They moved as if alive, writhing and beckoning, promising solace in their depths. Clara's instinct screamed at her to run, yet her curiosity tugged at her soul, the voice intertwining with her own thoughts, seducing her to turn around. Should they venture into the unknown, or would they lose everything trying to escape the terror behind? The shadows seemed to laugh, vibrant with life, hungry for their hesitance. And she knew whatever lay inside that mansion was waiting for them, ready to play its twisted game. "We have to decide right now," Clara urged, her voice quaking. "Are we going in or running away?" But there was only silence. The shadows danced closer, and a shadow of doubt loomed large over Clara's heart. What would they risk to find a way out? Who or what would they encounter if they chose to enter the mansion in their quest for salvation? Clara's heart thundered in her chest, as if trying to escape the clutches of the darkness. The mansion loomed, a grotesque guardian between freedom and the unknown, the air thick with unspoken promises. Lucy's grip tightened on her hand, her small body trembling beside her. "Mom, please." Lucy's voice shook, a tiny plea against the malevolent whispering that seemed to slither from the very walls of that vile structure. Clara swallowed hard. "We're not going in." "We're not." Her resolve waned, ceasing mid-sentence as that alluring voice coiled around her senses again. "Stay, I can make you whole again." The words dripped like honey dipped in poison, curling through her mind, drowning out the protests of reason. Clara stepped back, her instincts battling with curiosity. How could that voice know her? It had no warmth, no comfort, just an unholy pull like gravity itself. "We need to run, Lucy," she urged. But as soon as she said it, doubt slithered through her. What was waiting in the woods behind them? Would running bring salvation or just lead them deeper into the heart of despair? Screams and laughter echo inside the voice wove through her thoughts. "A new family awaits you, 1TB alone." The branches of the trees seemed to stretch toward the mansion, beckoning. Clara could hear a low whimpering sound, almost like a child crying. Her stomach churned, and panic threatened to override her reason. "Focus. We need to move," Clara shouted, feeling the desperation sink into her bones. But each heartbeat weighed her down, each mental cry drowned beneath the seductive murmur of promises. "I can't leave her, Mom. I want to help." Lucy sobbed, looking at the mansion with wide eyes filled with terror and longing. Clara could feel her little heart fighting against the fear, innocence battled by the twisted allure. "Lucy, listen to me. It's dangerous." But the shadows at the entrance flickered, growing more substantial, drawing Lucy's attention. "Mom, please. What if they can help? What if no?" Clara yanked her back, her voice rising in fear. The trees groaned as if in protest. "We can't trust them." But the mansion's facade seemed to shift, warping and expanding before their eyes, as though its walls were breathing, alive with a sinister hunger. The chill in the air thickened, wrapping around Clara like barbed wires. In that moment, a sudden loud crash echoed behind them, snapping Clara from her trance. It came from the depths of the woods, somewhere hidden within the dark foliage. She turned, white-knuckled, breath caught in her throat as the sound of hurried footsteps echoed closer. "Mom!" Lucy cried, pulling on Clara's hand. "What was that?" "Stay close," Clara shouted, her voice trembling. The mansion loomed with its inviting darkness, but now the forest behind them began to feel even less welcoming. Leaves rustled, shadows darted, a sense of dread began to thrum heavily through the air. Suddenly, Clara's eyes snapped back to the mansion just in time to see a figure pass behind one of the dusty windows, tall, cloaked, and just faint enough in the dim light to disappear like a flickering candle. "Mom, did you see that?" Lucy whispered, her voice quavering, breaking through the encroaching terror. "I did." Clara's breath came in short gasps. The shadows danced madly, mocking as they hovered around the house, tempted by an unseen force. "What do we do?" Lucy tightened her grip. Clara was torn. The shadows were closing in, and whatever was lurking in the woods drew closer with every second. The mansion called. They needed refuge. But the figure watching from the window? "I don't know. We can't stay here." But as they turned to run, the voice rose again, echoing louder, chained to the very soil beneath their feet. "Join me, Clara. Let us make the past right. Let Lucy join us." Each whispered word twisted Clara's heart, pulling her toward the darkness and away from her child. She had to decide: run into the shadows of the unknown or face the terror behind them. Then a chilling sound broke through, sharp and terrified, a scream that sliced through the night, echoing off the branches. "Mom!" Lucy screamed, as everything fell still. The air thickened with dread, and Clara's heart raced as she turned back to face the mansion. The window was dark now, but she could feel the eyes, thousands of them watching, waiting for her choice. "Lucy, we have to go right now." But as she pulled her daughter close, another scream erupted, not a distance away but right above them. Time held its breath. What had they stirred? Would they flee, or had they already stepped into their fate? "Mom," Lucy whispered, her eyes wide, as the world around them plunged into chaos. And in that moment, Clara knew they were not alone anymore. The silence shattered as the scream reverberated in the night, leaving a pulse of terror in the air. Clara instinctively pulled Lucy closer, her heart thudding like a war drum in her chest. She strained to make sense of the chaos unfolding around them. Shadows danced, flickering at the edge of her vision, swirling and spinning like restless spirits. "Mom, I'm scared," Lucy whimpered, her small hands quaking. "Shoo. We have to move, right now." Clara's voice was a hoarse whisper, as she scanned their surroundings, every sense on high alert. The figure in the window seemed to linger in her mind, a ghostly silhouette that drew her in and chilled her to the bone. As they sprinted away from the haunting presence of the mansion, the night's air felt suffocating. It wrapped around them, a heavy shroud of dread. Clara turned, glancing back at the mansion that loomed like a giant shadow. The darkened windows appeared like hollow eyes, watching, waiting for their return. "Mom!" The scream, it sounded like a boy. Lucy's voice trembled as she hesitated, her eyes wide with fear and an inexplicable urge to go back. "Lucy, we can't," Clara replied, a surge of fear tightening her throat. "We don't know what's in there." Yet the guilt clawed at her, knowing they were abandoning someone who might need help. But as the shadows of the trees loomed densely behind them, she felt the pressure to escape. What if the scream was just the mist of their imagination crafted by the mansion's dark influence? Doubt gnawed at her, but survival instincts took precedence. Suddenly, that low whimpering sound returned, rising again like the wind whispering secrets through the branches. The sound was close, a fragile wail separated from the torturous night. Clara's gut twisted. "Did you hear that?" she murmured, her heart racing again. "Yes. It sounds like someone needs our help." Lucy widened her eyes, yearning for a reason to turn back. "No." Clara pressed her hand on Lucy's shoulder, her grip firm. "We must keep moving. Whatever that is, it could be a trap." But as they moved deeper into the trees, the path seemed to twist and curl away from familiarity, each step more disorienting than the last. The black woods closed in around them, and the light faded further, the air thick with tension. Clara's breath fogged and seemed to vanish into the chilling night. "I want to go home," Lucy whimpered, her small voice cutting through the tumult of Clara's thoughts. "Me too, sweetheart." Clara tried to mask her own fear, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "We will get home. I promise." The trees closed ranks, like sentinels alerting the darkness. Clara felt it, a presence, a heaviness that pressed against her, right behind them. The sensation of being watched returned, stronger now, clawing at the back of her mind. A branch snapped somewhere close, Clara's heart leaped. "Run!" She didn't bother looking back. All that mattered was escape. Footsteps echoed from the shadows, quick and heavy, a pursuit or a warning. Clara didn't care to find out which. Faster! But Lucy stumbled, a twig snapping beneath her foot. Clara pivoted, just in time to see a blur dart between the trees. Panic surged. The figure? Or something much worse? "Mom! What was that?" Lucy cried as a rattle of low growls followed, thickening the air with dread. I don't know." Clara gasped, pulling Lucy away from where the darkness writhed anxiously. Suddenly, the air exploded with the noise of winds and whispers, a cacophony echoing their plight back at them. "Join us, come back, join the lost." Clara clamped her hands over her ears, trying to block it out, but the voices seeped through her resolve, tempting and taunting her with promises that tasted of every haunting nightmare. Their path widened and a clearing opened up ahead, illuminated by the faint glow of moonlight filtering through the treetops. An ancient tombstone emerged from the shadows, the engraving barely readable, but the name sent a chill down Clara's spine. Abel. Her heart raced as she recognized the name, a cruel reminder of the legends whispered throughout the town. Was he not lost, but waiting? "Mom! We should go back." What if someone is? Before Lucy could finish, Clara felt a presence all around them. Darkness surged and began to pull at her, like icy fingers grasping for her soul. They were not just shadows, they were something more, something very real. "Run!" Clara shrieked desperately, and together they tore through the clearing, feeling the weight of ancient eyes watching their every move. As they stumbled into the unknown, the name echoed ominously in Clara's mind. What if running only led them deeper into something that never truly let go? Behind them, the mansion's whispers beckoned, promising reunion but harboring secrets, darker than Clara could ever understand. The screams and laughter faded, just before a voice broke through the night, clear and demanding. "You cannot escape your fate, Clara," and in that moment, as the shadows lunged forward, she wondered if she had already chosen her path. Would she be swallowed whole? Was it too late to make a decision that could save them both? Or had they already invited the dark into their lives? Clara stood at the precipice of despair, staring into the depths of darkness that enveloped the woods. Each heartbeat thudded in her chest like a war drum, echoing her determination to protect Lucy. Shadows twisted around them, flickering with haunting forms, and she felt the invisible fingers of fear curl around her throat. "Lucy, we have to move. Now." Clara's voice sliced through the thick air, full of urgency, mingled with a desperate hope that they might find salvation. As they sprinted through the forest breathless under the weight of their fear, Clara turned to glance back. The shadows shifted with a mind of their own, swirling and curling like smoke, hungry for their retreat. "Run, Lucy!" Her shout split the silence. The figure loomed behind them, the tall silhouette that sent jolts of cold terror racing through her. "You cannot escape the forgotten," echoed its voice, guttural and pregnant with malice. Clara swallowed hard, fear threatened to choke her as the sinister promise tingled on her skin. "Keep going," Clara hissed, pulling Lucy forward, her small hand trembling against her own. The night became a mosaic of shadows and twisted branches. Every noise amplified the snap of a branch, the rustle of leaves. It was as if the trees themselves were awakening, eager to witness their flight. Then came the sound again, the spine-chilling scream that echoed from somewhere deep in the woods. Clara's heart sank. Was someone indeed trapped in this sepulchre of trees, begging for rescue? "Mom, what was that?" Lucy gasped, her fear spilling over into Clara's own rising panic. "I don't know, sweetheart. We can't stop," Clara urged, forcing her legs to move faster, pushing against the unyielding pressure of the shadows. But a part of her ached. What if someone needed help? The screams, they echoed in her mind. "Mom! Please!" Lucy's voice trembled, sensing Clara's turmoil. Suddenly, the forest parted, revealing a clear path bathed in moonlight, leading to an eerie clearing. In the center sat an ancient tombstone half embedded in the earth, faintly inscribed. "Abel." Clara froze. Memories jolted, distant whispers of a boy lost. Was that him? The tales had belonged to her childhood, but the weight of belief hung heavy now, reality tinged with a nightmarish edge. We can't linger." Clara pulled Lucy back, her heart racing, but the shadows lashed out, a whirl of dark fury, as if they knew what rested before Clara. "Join us, embrace the forgotten," came the cacophony, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. "Mom!" Lucy screamed, eyes wide with fear. "I don't want to go with them." Clara's heart shattered at her daughter's words. "We won't lose each other, Lucy. I promise." Summoning every ounce of strength, Clara pushed forward. They had to escape the pull of the tombstone, to refuse the temptation of the darkness that begged for Lucy. With renewed determination, they charged through the clearing. The ground trembled and cracked beneath them as the shadows surged, chasing relentlessly at their heels. "Keep going," Clara shouted, her voice raw. They wasn't safe yet. This was just the beginning, but as they pressed on, the figure amalgamated once more from the darkness, a tapestry of malicious intent. Its hollow eyes glowed with a predatory hunger, thirsting for their despair. "You cannot outrun your fate, Clara." Panic seized her heart. "We will not succumb." She grasped Lucy's hand tighter, shaking off despair like a coat. They pressed on, fighting against the weight of their fear, but then a blinding light shattered the darkness ahead. A portal, a refuge, or a trick? Clara hesitated. "Lucy, do you see that? Yes, Mom. It's beautiful. Then we run. Grasping her daughter's hand even tighter, they threw themselves into this brilliant light. Shadows shrieked, their cries piercing. Stay close. Clara shouted, her voice a mix of terror and hope. They raced forward, the warmth enveloping them, wrapping them in safety. With one last push, they surged into the luminous embrace, the throbbing shadows slipping behind them, furious and lost. Clara felt the darkness slip away, the weight on her chest lifted. Suddenly, silence. Clara and Lucy landed softly on warm grass, the oppressive gloom dissipating like morning fog. They blinked against the sun, which shone unblemished above them. Mom, we made it, Lucy whispered, wide-eyed in disbelief. We did, sweetheart. We're safe. Clara's voice cracked with emotion. She fell to her knees and wrapped her arms around Lucy, the warmth of their embrace erasing the horrors they'd escaped. But a shadow loomed in the back of her mind. Did we really escape? She whispered softly. Clara looked up. The graveyard was still there, the trees standing watch with gnarled fingers. The lingering whispers of the forgotten, the remnants of ages past, echoed gently, and Clara understood, they may have been victorious for now, but the shadows would always watch, waiting for a moment of weakness. Come on, Lucy. Let us go home, Clara said resolutely, as the sunlight bathed their path, determined to carve a life out of shadows that rushed to reclaim. With Lucy by her side, Clara stepped away from the haunting presence toward hope and warmth, vowing to keep the darkness at bay, for love was their shield, and together they were invincible. And as they walked toward the light, a promise of mornings filled with laughter, joy, and the warmth of the sun, Clara knew they had truly left the shadows behind. But only time would tell if shadows could truly be outrun. Now, listen up. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss more exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Seriously, it makes a huge difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear every thought you have. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions. Let us keep this community thriving.